this was in Fort Worth, and I qualified as American Airlines commercial pilot. Uh, well, look around, see if you see me someplace. But anyway, I'm pretty close to the end on one of the lines.
Right there, I find it. Is that you? Yeah, that's you. Is that you? Yeah.
I don't know, let me look.
Right there.
Okay.
Move it.
Yep, that's me. Third from the end right here.
Yeah.
So when I came back, I flew Anacostia Naval Air Station, which was just down below the Navy Yard. And somebody I know was down at the Navy Yard in the last week. Right? Well, all right. Okay. So across, no, this was in Fort Worth, but across from the Navy Yard, there was an air station in those days. And I flew Secretary Forrestal, who was Secretary of Defense, was the most important man that I flew, and he's a really fine man. We liked him a lot. And the one that we didn't want to fly was Admiral King. He was Chief of Naval Operations, and any plane you had ready for him, he would want a different one, and so we just knew it anyhow.
Do you have any more medals?
Yeah, there are a bunch of them, but I don't know where they all are, truthfully. Okay.
What was your question?
Next question.
This question is from your wife, and she'd like to ask you about at Appalachian about the goat.
Yeah, the goat. Oh.
That was the call. You said you weren't
This-
going to
this-
ask that question.
The question is, Granddaddy, when you were a young man, did you play any interesting tricks or pranks when you were coming along?
The answer was yes. In my innocence, I managed to have. Let me go back and start over. Well, when I was going to school, first I went to school with two things, and three things. One, total innocence that I wouldn't be a total success, a complete conviction that I would be. I had $33 in my pocket and a job, and that was it for tuition, school, board, clothes, the whole load. And so I was working at two jobs going to school, and I had an off period right after lunch that I go back to the dormitory to study. So at Appalachian in those days, I think it's where the, what's the Advanced Education Center or something? Who went to Appalachian?
They're all
Nobody here.
upstairs.
Okay, anyway, the president of the school's home was just beside this dormitory. And he had some goats. And thus, the goat story. I was coming home that afternoon, and I thought life had been pretty dull around our dormitory, and it had. And I thought I would take that goat into the dormitory, and it might be kind of fun, see what would happen. And little did I realize what was about to happen. And he was a goat with horns and all of this, and I just took him by the horns and walked him on into the dormitory. And our rooms were set up. We had two rooms and a bathroom in between. And the football players were next door and so forth. I was wrestling intramural sports, and I made the intramural varsity, if you will, in wrestling. But anyway, this big old guy who later played for the Redskins, as a matter of fact, lived just down the hall, and I thought he'll be a great one to pull his prank on. And his roommate was named Jim O'Toole, who was from Pennsylvania and a big, strong, mean-spirited Irishman, and he was a guard. So anyway, and we all had these combination locks on our door, and it was very, very easy to open them. I could open the locks as fast as I could put a key in them. So I opened the lock, put the goat in the door, closed the door, went down the hall to my room, and the next thing I heard this horrible crash. And I mean, it was a crash, and I thought, oh, Lord, what's happening now? And there was a transom over the doors.
What?
A transom over the doors.
What's a
It's
transom?
window that rolls
It's a
down.
window over the doors that you can look into a room, you know. It's a door.
Like a glass
It's-
panel, and
it's
in the
like a
olden
glass
times, you
thing.
could open it up for the.
Get a little air, get a little ventilation through it. And so I got a chair and looked inside the room. And the goat was in the middle of the bed. He had torn that bed apart. He was standing there. He had goat droppings all over the bed. And he was looking up at the wall, at the mirror, and he saw himself in the wall, in the mirror. And he jumped up on the dresser. Everything was torn apart on it. I mean, all the shaving lotion, everything that was on it. He saw himself, oh, wham, into the wall. He's busted up the picture, shattering the whole place. He's madder than all get out, and he's going around the room, battering on everything. And that room is utter chaos. And I knew to myself I couldn't get out of this by taking him out. The best thing to do is leave him alone. I went to my room, closed the door, and waited for somebody to come in. and sure enough, a couple guys came in, went to the room, And here came old Fluffo Watts, as we call him, the future Redskin, opened the door and he let out a yell, and the goat took out after him. And down the hallway he went and around and around, and this goat with his head down, I cracked the door and looked out and closed it. And this was serious. They were going out around the front of the building and coming into the dormitory. And the fact was, it was pretty hilarious if I hadn't done the dirty deed. And finally, they got him back and calmed things down. And there was a lot of people very upset. And I realized that there was no way that I could ever confide in one single soul. Because as a result of that, the president of the school was very upset that his goat had been, as he perceived it, mistreated. When in fact the goat was trying to mistreat the rest of us. And he called assembly the next morning, and there was about 1,100 students, and all 1,100 assembled. And he announced to one and all that the person in the student body who had violated his goat would be found and would be summarily dismissed from school, and a variety of other terrible thoughts. And so then it became more and more obvious that I could never share the fun with it, and I never did. But that legend went on for years about the goat story, and a couple of other fellows tried it and it didn't work. So anyhow, so much for the goat story.
You got caught. You got caught?
I'm sorry?
No deer found out. God never found out.
No, there were some people who had a pretty good idea, but no one dared. They wouldn't have told. They were big guys. See, the rest of it was, I was selling them goodies at night, and they didn't want me to get in trouble anyway.
Goodies.
I had the first entrepreneurial exercise in the school.
Gonna go in about a half hour.
Dad, what since you didn't have any TV or anything when you were young, what did you do after you got home from school and like that till you went to bed? I mean, what was like a typical day when you were maybe kids' age?
Everyone should listen to this, I'm sure.
Well, mostly if there was work to do, you did the work. You know, if you had to work in the garden or something like that. Or in my life, it often meant going to the store and working down at the store until closing time. But there weren't, well, when I was real little, we had a big old sandbox in the back, you know, it must have been 10 feet by 15 feet or something, and we had all sorts of little cars and things to play with. And I did that, but mostly we had chores to do around the house.
I didn't take anything.
It was work that, and then we had to do all of our studies. We had a lot of homework every night. We had a lot of homework to do, and so we did it.
What did you do for fun at night? I mean, if you didn't have TV, what were some of the other things that you did?
Well, I read a lot. I read books and stuff. As a matter of fact, I can vouch for my doing my homework because I found these report cards. And,
All right. Yeah.
Now, this is a sticky subject.
Come on, everybody, this is top grade.
here's one from, I found one from 6th grade
Whoa.
and one from the 5th grade. And,
Straight A's. This is fifth grade. B, B, A, 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 A. Do you have another one? C, A, B. Okay, elementary school.
And here was,
That's what I'm saying.
here was when, you know, the Honor Society used to be called the National Honorary Beta Club, and I qualified for that. I don't know what grade I was in, but anyhow, I made it. The National Honor Society, and it worked out all right.
B minus B.
My father was happier than I was. Here was my high school senior picture,
There's another one.
and that was my freshman college picture.
Wow, look at that picture.
How about
Oh,
that?
is he a serious guy?
Look at that blonde hair, huh?
Yep.
Hey, how serious he is.
Well, I had a semi-smile.
Got lots of
Actually, I didn't have a suit, so I borrowed this guy's coat to have this picture.
Looks good.
Can I see it?
You may. And I have some other awards here that you might be interested in. Every year, you get a certificate if you weren't absent for a single day. And I have a certificate that says you're neither tardy nor absent for every single grade from the 2nd grade through high school. I was neither late nor absent one day in school.
Wow,
For every year.
Gee whiz.
that is significant.
That's really good.
Well, we didn't get sick. We couldn't afford to get sick. So we did.
Wow. Who was that?
That was me.
Let me see.
Who was that?
Whoa.
That is me. It was